I want to get started right now on a story making waves throughout the sports world the last couple of days. It involves gambling.
Stephen A. Smith just lit up the sports world with a bombshell expose on NHL star Evander Kane, and it's got everyone talking.
Oh, this is a 10. This is short of murder. This is about the worst thing a pro athlete can do.
In this video, we're breaking down Stephen A.'s wild revelations because the craziest part isn't just the money Kane lost. It's why he started gambling in the first place. Let's get into it. The shocking revelation. Stephen A. Smith has a habit of jumping into everybody's business, whether it's LeBron, KD, or now, Evander Kane's financial mess. But you might be wondering, why is Stephen even coming for Evander in the first place? Well, it all started when First Take turned into a hockey debate between PK Subban and the dynamic duo, Stephen A. and Shannon Sharpe. Most viewers expected the usual sports banter, but for Evander Kane, watching from home, it hit a nerve. Smith and Sharpe were brushing off hockey's physicality while clearly knowing about as much as a goalie does about scoring goals. Kane clapped back hard on Twitter. Hard to have a debate at PKS Subban 1 when neither of these two have no idea what they're talking about when it comes to hockey. So what exactly was he hiding? Well, while Kane was out here lecturing the sports world about hockey knowledge, behind the scenes, he was living a double life, one that makes even the NFL's biggest gambling scandals look like child's play. Picture this: a professional athlete earning nearly $55 million over his career, yet somehow managing to go broker than a rookie's first contract. Kane had filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy in January 2021, listing a staggering $26.8 million in debts against just $10.2 million in assets. But here's where it gets wilder than a line brawl in the Stanley Cup Finals. He had lost approximately $1.5 million directly due to gambling at casinos over just a 12-month period. Kane's gambling addiction made Antonio Brown's Twitter antics look tame by comparison. He admitted to placing as many as 50 bets per day at times, turning his phone into a high-stakes casino faster than Tom Brady could throw a touchdown pass. The man was betting with the frequency of a Patriots punt and losing money faster than the Jets lose playoff hopes. Kane had traced the onset of his gambling problems to 2012 after signing his first major NHL contract, proving that sometimes the biggest hits in hockey happen off the ice. The scope of Kane's financial devastation was more shocking than any fourth quarter comeback. He was wagering with illegal bookmakers, often settling debts with cash, wire transfers, and even jewelry, including 2 Rolex watches valued at $75,000 to pay off creditors. This wasn't just throwing money away like a failed Hail Mary. This was systematic financial destruction that would make even the most reckless NFL free agent blush. The cash-based nature of his transactions meant there was often little documentation, like running plays without a playbook, chaotic and destined for failure. The Cosmopolitan Casino lawsuit provided another glimpse into Kane's reckless betting habits, with the Las Vegas establishment suing him for failing to repay $500,000 in gambling markers. While the lawsuit was later dropped, it highlighted how Kane's gambling had transformed from recreational activity into a full-blown addiction that threatened every aspect of his life. Kane's largest creditor, Centennial Bank, opposed his request for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection, arguing that his undocumented gambling transactions with illegal bookies complicated his financial accountability. The bank's opposition demonstrated how Kane's addiction had pushed him into increasingly dangerous financial territory, dealing with unregulated operators who made loan sharks look like friendly neighborhood bankers. What made Kane's Twitter criticism of Stephen A. Smith particularly ironic wasn't just the timing, but the fact that Smith's trademark brutal honesty about athletes' personal failings was exactly what Kane's situation demanded. Smith had built his career on exposing the kind of destructive behavior that Kane had been secretly engaging in for years, and Kane's gambling addiction provided exactly the kind of cautionary tale that Smith loved to dissect on national television. The stage was set for a collision course between Kane's past mistakes and Smith's relentless pursuit of athletic accountability, with consequences that would ripple far beyond a simple Twitter exchange. Kane's gambling demons were about to face the ultimate penalty shot from sports media's most unforgiving goaltender, and this time there would be no saves. Here was a player who had spent the better part of 2 years embroiled in some of the most serious controversies professional sports had seen, taking aim at media personalities for their lack of expertise. The irony wasn't lost on observers who knew Kane's own story, a tale of spectacular success undermined by personal demons that had cost him nearly everything. Once viewed as one of the NHL's rising stars, Kane had become synonymous with scandal and controversy, his on-ice achievements consistently overshadowed by off-ice incidents that painted him as a polarizing figure in professional sports. The human cost of Kane's addiction extended far beyond the financial devastation, touching every aspect of his personal and professional life in ways that would prove difficult to repair. As Kane's gambling spiraled out of control like a power play gone wrong, it began to affect his relationships, the unraveling of everything. So now that we've covered Evander Kane's gambling spiral, let's talk about what it really cost him, because the money was just the beginning. His personal life crumbled just as fast, and the wreckage was way uglier. What started as quiet tension in his marriage to Anna Kane exploded into full-blown chaos, public fights, messy court battles, and social media call-outs that turned their private life into an international circus. Then came July 2021. That's when Anna Kane took to Instagram and lit the match. Her accusations weren't vague or diplomatic. They were sharp, explosive, and aimed to destroy. She labeled him a compulsive gambling addict who prioritized betting over basic family needs. According to her, while he was off partying in Europe, she was back home, unable to afford baby formula and forced to sell her wedding ring just to survive. But Anna's allegations went far beyond financial neglect. She accused Kane of betting on NHL games, including those of his own team, the San Jose Sharks, and deliberately throwing games to profit from bookmakers. These accusations struck at the very heart of professional sports integrity, suggesting that Kane had crossed the ultimate line by compromising the competitive fairness that fans expect and deserve. If proven true, such behavior would have warranted a lifetime ban from the NHL, effectively ending Kane's career and destroying his legacy. The timing of Anna's accusations seemed calculated for maximum impact. She posted her gambling allegations on Kane's birthday, a detail that Kane himself would later point out as evidence of her malicious intent. The personal nature of this timing suggested that their dispute had moved far beyond the typical acrimony of a difficult divorce into something more vindictive and destructive. Kane's response to the gambling allegations was swift and unequivocal. "I have never gambled, bet on a Sharks game, never gambled, bet on hockey, never gambled, bet on any of my games, and never thrown a hockey game." His emphatic denials were backed up by his pledge to cooperate fully with the NHL's investigation, demonstrating his confidence that the league would find no evidence to support Anna's claims. The NHL's investigation was thorough and comprehensive, reviewing social media posts, court documents, betting records, and conducting interviews with Kane and Sharks personnel. Notably, Anna Kane declined to participate in the investigation, a decision that undermined the credibility of her own accusations. When the league concluded its review in September 2021, they found no evidence to substantiate the claims that Kane had bet on NHL games or manipulated their outcomes, effectively exonerating him of the most serious charges against his professional integrity. However, Anna's accusations extended far beyond gambling, venturing into territory that was even more personally damaging and legally dangerous. In September 2021, she filed for a domestic violence restraining order, accusing Kane of sexual assault and multiple instances of domestic battery. The specific allegations she made were graphic and disturbing, painting a picture of a man who had allegedly used physical violence and sexual coercion against his wife over an extended period. According to Anna's filing, in March 2019, shortly after their infant daughter's funeral following a premature birth, Kane allegedly forced her to perform oral sex by grabbing her hair and later forced intercourse against her will, stating, "You can't your wife." The timing of this alleged assault, coming immediately after such a traumatic loss, made the accusation particularly heinous and emotionally charged. The restraining order filing included additional allegations of physical violence, including an incident in 2019 after a Sharks playoff game in Las Vegas, where Kane allegedly smelled alcohol on Anna's breath and assaulted her in their hotel room, punching her in the head and threatening further violence if she disobeyed. Anna claimed to have photographic evidence of bruises resulting from various alleged assaults, including an incident in June 2021 in Vancouver at Kane's mother's house, where he allegedly choked her, lifting her off her feet. Perhaps most disturbing of all was Anna's allegation that Kane had physically assaulted their infant daughter. She claimed that in late 2021 during an argument. About his gambling addiction, Kane allegedly swung his fist and hit their baby, with Anna pregnant with their second child at the time. This accusation crossed every conceivable line, suggesting that Kane's alleged violence had extended even to his own children. Kane's legal team vehemently denied all of Anna's allegations, with his lawyer Travis Krapelka stating that Kane had never abused Anna or their daughter. Kane himself was adamant about his innocence, stating during an interview,
and I want to be very clear about this for a second here. My name, unfortunately, has been tied to sexual assault allegations or domestic violence allegations or whatever you want to call it. That's a nightmare for me. It really bothers me. It's something that I would say that actually gets to me, which I try to not let a lot of things get to me. That gets to me. because it's just so untrue, it's so false, and it's a horrific thing to be associated with in any capacity.
Kane had actually obtained a temporary restraining order against Anna in August 2021, alleging that she had been violent toward him, including hitting him multiple times in 2019 and 2020. This counter-narrative suggested that the truth of their relationship was far more complex than Anna's public accusations indicated. The NHL investigated Anna's domestic violence allegations alongside the gambling claims and found no evidence to substantiate them. The league's findings, combined with the fact that no criminal charges were filed despite the serious nature of the allegations, suggested that Anna's claims couldn't be proven despite their inflammatory nature. Kane's history with sexual assault allegations extended beyond his marriage to Anna, creating a pattern of accusations that, while never resulting in criminal convictions, had nonetheless damaged his reputation significantly. The most prominent of these involved Rachel Kuckel, who in December 2015 accused Kane of assaulting her in his hotel room at the Buffalo Marriott Harbor Center. Kuckel claimed the assault involved violent battery, causing lacerations, extensive bleeding, and requiring multiple surgeries and blood transfusions. For Rachel Kuckel's earlier sexual assault allegations from 2015, Kane maintained his innocence in a brief but firm statement during the investigation. "There's not a whole lot I can say. I just want to say I've done nothing wrong. I look forward to clearing my name. I respect the legal process. And unfortunately this time, there's not much more I can talk about." Buffalo police investigated the Kuckel allegations as a possible sexual assault, but in March 2016, acting Erie County District Attorney Michael Flaherty announced that no criminal charges would be filed due to insufficient evidence. Kuckel subsequently filed a civil lawsuit in July 2016, seeking $3 million in damages, which she later withdrew with prejudice, meaning she could not refile the case. Kane filed a defamation countersuit, claiming Kuckel's allegations were a sham, though this was partially dismissed in 2018. The Kuckel case was ultimately settled out of court in April 2022, with no details disclosed about the terms of the settlement. The fact that both parties agreed to settle suggested that neither side was confident about their chances if the case proceeded to trial, leaving the allegations unresolved in the public mind. A third allegation involved a woman identified as Hope Parker, who filed a lawsuit in 2018 claiming that Kane had promised to pay her $2 million for an abortion but failed to do so. This case remained ongoing as of 2022, with a federal bankruptcy judge allowing discovery to proceed despite Kane's bankruptcy filing. The pattern of allegations against Kane, while never resulting in criminal convictions, created a cloud of suspicion that followed him throughout his career. Each new accusation reinforced negative perceptions of his character, even when investigations failed to substantiate the claims. The cumulative effect was devastating to his reputation, transforming him from a talented athlete into a polarizing figure whose personal conduct overshadowed his professional achievements. Kane's own response to the various allegations revealed a man struggling to defend his reputation while acknowledging his personal failings in other areas. His explanation of Anna's motivations was particularly illuminating.
I was also accused of gambling and betting on hockey and throwing games last year. I was the one that actually filed for a domestic violence restraining order against my ex-wife first, but that was never highlighted at all. I get accused of gambling on hockey on my birthday by my ex-wife. I get told that I'm having a son with her on February 17th is the date she gives me. That's my dad's birthday. She comes out with a domestic violence allegations that were just sickening on the first day of training camp. These aren't coincidence. These are calculated things that she was trying to do to essentially ruin my career, ruin my life, and get full custody of our daughter.
The breakdown of Kane's marriage to Anna represented more than just a personal failure. It became a public relations disaster that threatened to end his career entirely. The fact that their custody battle ultimately resulted in Kane gaining sole physical and legal custody of their daughter suggested that the courts had serious concerns about Anna's fitness as a parent, possibly including questions about her mental health that Kane's legal team had raised during the proceedings. As Kane's personal life continued to unravel in increasingly public ways, the professional consequences became impossible to ignore, setting the stage for decisions that would fundamentally alter the trajectory of his NHL career. The professional reckoning and road to redemption. The intersection of Evander Kane's personal crises and his professional hockey career reached a breaking point during the 2021-22 season, when the accumulated weight of scandals, investigations, and public relations disasters finally overwhelmed his relationship with the San Jose Sharks organization. What followed was a period of professional uncertainty that tested Kane's resilience and forced him to confront the consequences of years of poor decision-making. Kane's suspension for violating COVID-19 protocols in late 2021 provided the San Jose Sharks with the excuse they needed to distance themselves from their troubled star. The suspension, which lasted 21 games, was officially related to Kane submitting a fake vaccination card, though the full details of the violation were never disclosed publicly. Kane himself remained characteristically tight-lipped about the specifics, acknowledging only that it was an error in judgment, while refusing to elaborate on what exactly had occurred. The COVID protocol violation seemed almost minor compared to the other scandals swirling around Kane, but it provided the Sharks with legal grounds to take action against a player whose presence had become increasingly problematic for the organization. Reports suggested that some of Kane's teammates were hesitant to welcome him back to the team, possibly due to the gambling controversy and other off-ice issues that had dominated headlines throughout 2021. On January 14, 2022, the San Jose Sharks terminated Kane's contract, officially citing the COVID-19 protocol violation rather than the gambling allegations or domestic violence claims. However, the cumulative weight of Kane's personal troubles had clearly eroded any trust or goodwill that remained between him and the organization. The timing and manner of the termination left no doubt that the Sharks were eager to cut ties with a player whose off-ice problems had overshadowed his considerable on-ice contributions. Kane's initial reaction to the contract termination revealed just how unprepared he was for this development.
I was just having a normal afternoon that day, and got a text message from my agent saying check your email. And I checked my email and saw what it said, and then realized that it had already been out there for 10+ minutes on social media. So I had found out after the fact. So I was completely blindsided by it. And I'd probably say for the first 3 or 4 hours, it was, wasn't feeling great, wasn't feeling too hot. Tough couple hours there.
The impersonal nature of the communication and the fact that he learned about his professional fate through social media highlighted how completely his relationship with the Sharks had deteriorated. The immediate aftermath of the termination was emotionally devastating for Kane, who admitted that the first 3 or 4 hours after receiving the news were particularly difficult. However, after consulting with his support team, he began to view the situation as an opportunity rather than just a setback. This shift in perspective proved crucial, as it allowed him to approach his uncertain future with optimism rather than bitterness. What happened next surprised many observers. Well over half of the NHL's 30 teams reached out to Kane's agent within the first 48 hours after his contract termination. This overwhelming interest from other organizations suggested that many teams viewed Kane's personal problems as either exaggerated or manageable, focusing instead on his undeniable talent and the potential value he could bring to their organization. Joe Thornton was the first former teammate to reach out to Kane after the termination, providing emotional support during a difficult period. The call from Thornton, a respected veteran and future Hall of Famer, likely meant a great deal to Kane during a time when he was questioning whether his NHL career was effectively over. The interest from other teams required Kane to engage in a different kind of conversation than he was accustomed to having with potential employers. Rather than focusing solely on his hockey abilities and what he could contribute on the ice, these discussions necessarily included detailed examinations of his personal life, his struggles with gambling addiction, and his various legal entanglements. Kane welcomed these difficult conversations, viewing them as opportunities to tell his side of the story and demonstrate that he was committed to addressing his problems. Connor McDavid's public comments about Kane represented a particularly significant endorsement from the NHL's biggest star. McDavid stated that he thought Kane could be a good fit for the Edmonton Oilers, while acknowledging that the team needed to let the process play out properly. Kane was impressed by McDavid's even-keeled approach, particularly given that the two had not previously known each other personally. McDavid's willingness to withhold judgment until he could get to know Kane personally represented exactly the kind of fair-minded approach that Kane hoped to encounter throughout the league. Kane's openness about his gambling addiction became a central part of his conversations with potential new teams. When asked directly about his gambling problem, Kane was remarkably candid.
I did, 100%. I said that. I said that on ESPN when I did my interview earlier. That apparently that's all they focused on, because there was probably 45 minutes of other stuff that was said. A lot of that, kind of what we've talked about, that never made it to to screen, but yeah, I definitely had a gambling issue in a certain period of my life, but fortunately for me, that's been resolved, and I'm very confident and comfortable saying that that's no longer an issue.
His willingness to discuss the problem candidly, rather than minimizing or denying it, likely helped convince teams that he was taking his recovery seriously. Kane continued working with a therapist twice a week throughout his professional uncertainty, demonstrating his ongoing commitment to addressing the underlying issues that had contributed to his problem. His description of therapy sessions revealed important insights into his recovery process, including his observation that sometimes talking about gambling could trigger urges to engage in the behavior, leading him to ask his therapist to focus on other topics during some sessions. The fact that Kane no longer experienced urges to gamble in his daily life represented a crucial milestone in his recovery. He noted that he didn't think about gambling in his spare time anymore and had no interest in the activity, which he viewed as evidence that his addiction was truly under control. This self-awareness about his mental state suggested that his therapeutic work was having meaningful effects beyond just abstaining from gambling. Kane's signing with the Edmonton Oilers in January 2022 marked the beginning of what many hoped would be a genuine redemption story. The 4-year, $20.5 million contract represented a significant commitment from the Oilers organization, indicating their belief that Kane's talent was worth the potential risks associated with his troubled past. The move to Edmonton also provided Kane with geographical distance from many of the negative influences and associations that had contributed to his problems in other cities. Playing for his home country's team, alongside generational talents like McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, gave Kane an opportunity to focus purely on hockey while rebuilding his reputation both on and off the ice. Kane's performance with the Oilers validated the organization's faith in him. His contributions to the team's success, particularly during playoff runs, demonstrated that his hockey abilities remained elite despite the personal turmoil he had endured. The positive feedback he received from coaches and management, both privately and publicly, suggested that his integration into the team had been successful both from a performance and character standpoint. Kane's current relationship with model Mara Tagan represents another positive development in his personal life. The couple, who originally dated starting in 2014 before briefly separating and reuniting in 2021, became engaged in September 2024 and are planning to marry in the summer of 2027. They have 3 children together and recently welcomed their daughter, Penelope Monroe Kane, on March 4, 2025. Kane's role as co-head of the Hockey Diversity Alliance demonstrates his continued commitment to using his platform for positive change, despite the controversies that have surrounded his personal life. His advocacy for racial justice in hockey and his efforts to promote inclusivity in the sport represent an important part of his legacy that extends beyond his individual achievements and failures. The contrast between Kane's current stability and the chaos that characterized much of 2021 and early 2022 illustrates the possibility of genuine personal growth and redemption even after very public failures. His willingness to acknowledge his mistakes, seek professional help, and make meaningful changes to his lifestyle suggests that his comeback story may prove to be more than just a temporary reprieve from his problems. His ongoing success with the Edmonton Oilers, his stable family life with Mara Tagan, and his continued advocacy work suggest that genuine change is possible, even for public figures who have faced the most serious accusations and scandals. While his gambling problems cost him nearly everything, his financial security, his marriage, his reputation, and nearly his career, his response to these losses has shown that it's possible to rebuild from even the most devastating circumstances. Whether his redemption story will prove lasting remains to be seen, but his current trajectory suggests that sometimes losing everything can provide the foundation for building something better. If you enjoyed watching this clip, please click on the card showing on the screen.